I was finishing up dinner when my fiancée dropped the bomb like she was discussing the weather. "So Eric called today," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "He wants to get drinks tomorrow night and catch up. See how things are going." I looked up from my plate. Eric, her ex-boyfriend of 3 years. The one she dated right before me. "Catch up?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She turned around with that smile I used to love. "Yeah, just as friends obviously. We ended things on good terms, and he's curious about how I'm doing. It's completely innocent." "I see. You're obviously not invited though," she added with a little laugh. "That would be weird, right? Having my fiancé there while I'm talking to my ex." There it was, the line in the sand. "Completely understood," I said, taking another bite of my food. She seemed pleased with my response. Too pleased. Like she'd expected some kind of fight or jealousy from me, and my calm reaction meant she'd won something. "I knew you'd get it. You're so mature about these things. That's why I love you." She came over and kissed the top of my head. Most guys would be all weird and possessive about their girlfriend having coffee with an ex. "Drinks, you said." "What? You said drinks first, then coffee just now." She waved her hand dismissively. "Same thing. You know what I mean." I didn't know what she meant. I knew exactly what she meant. She disappeared into the bedroom to pick out an outfit for tomorrow. I could hear hangers sliding across the rod, clothes being tried on and discarded. She was putting real effort into this innocent catch-up. I finished eating in silence, my mind already working through what needed to happen next. This wasn't about jealousy or possessiveness. This was about respect, boundaries, and what kind of marriage we'd have if I let this slide. The answer was simple. We wouldn't have one. She came back out wearing her black dress, the one she wore on our first date. "How do I look?" she asked, doing a little spin. "Perfect for catching up with an ex," I said. She missed the sarcasm completely. "Thanks, babe. I want to look nice, but not like I'm trying too hard, you know." "You nailed it." She was so focused on her appearance and her plans that she didn't notice I'd stopped calling her by name. Didn't notice the shift in my tone. Didn't notice that I was studying her like I was seeing her for the first time. Or maybe for the last time. "I should probably be home by 10, she said, applying lipstick in the mirror. "Unless we really get into talking, then maybe 11. Take your time. You're the best." She grabbed her purse and keys. "I'll text you when I'm heading home." The door closed behind her with a soft click. I sat there for a moment, listening to her car start up and drive away. Then I got up, cleared the table, and went to get my laptop. I had some phone calls to make. The first call I made was to Owen Jewelers downtown, the same place where I'd picked out her engagement ring just 6 months ago. "Owen Jewelers, this is Ralph speaking. Hi, this is about the ring I purchased in March. Account under my name. I need to know about your return policy." "Oh, certainly. May I ask the reason for the return?" "Change of circumstances." There was a pause. Ralph had probably heard this before. "Well, our policy states that engagement rings can be returned within 90 days for a full refund, provided they're in original condition. After that, we offer store credit or can discuss a trade-in value." "It's been 6 months." "I see. In that case, we need to evaluate the piece, but typically we offer 60 to 70% of purchase price for a trade-in. 60% of $4,000. $2,400 back. Not ideal, but better than keeping a ring for someone who was currently having drinks with her ex. I'll be in tomorrow morning." "Excellent. Just bring the ring and your receipt if you have it." Next, I opened my laptop and started researching tenant rights. We'd been living in my apartment for the past year. Her name wasn't on the lease. Legally, she was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. 30 days notice in most cases. But given the circumstances, I wondered if that even applied. I made a list of everything that was hers versus mine. Furniture we'd bought together would be tricky, but most of the big stuff was mine from before she moved in. Her clothes, her books, her collection of expensive skincare products that took up half the bathroom counter. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Just got here. Place is really nice. Eric looks good," smiling face with smiling eyes. I stared at the message for a long moment. The smiley face was a nice touch. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my buddy Tyler, who'd been through his own messy breakup last year. "What's up, man? I need a favor. Can I crash on your couch for a few days? Trouble in paradise?" Paradise just ended. "What happened?" I gave him the short version. Tyler listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I appreciated about him. "Dude, she's testing you," he said when I finished. "This is some kind of power play." "I know. So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to pass her test with flying colors. Just not the way she expects." "You need help moving stuff?" "Probably tomorrow. I'll let you know." "You got it. And hey, Good for you for not putting up with that garbage. Most guys would be sitting around worried sick right now. After hanging up with Tyler, I started packing. Just the essentials for now. Clothes for a few days, toiletries, my laptop, and work stuff. I moved methodically, like I was packing for a business trip. My phone buzzed again. OMG, he's so funny. I forgot how much we used to laugh together faced with tears of joy. This time I almost laughed myself. She was actually giving me a play-by-play of her date. Either she was completely clueless about how this looked, or she was deliberately trying to make me jealous. Neither option spoke well for her judgment. I found a box in the closet and started packing her things too. Might as well get a head start. Her jewelry box, the photos on the nightstand, her favorite coffee mug, all the little signs that she lived here. By 10:30, I had 2 bags packed for myself and 1 box of her stuff ready to go. My apartment looked different already. Cleaner somehow, like it was returning to what it used to be. My phone had stayed quiet for the past hour. Either she was having too much fun to text, or she'd finally realized that sending updates about her ex wasn't the smartest move. I sat down on the couch and cracked open a beer. The same couch where she'd said yes when I proposed, where we'd planned our future together, where she'd probably expect to curl up next to me tomorrow night and pretend nothing had changed. But something had changed. Everything had changed. She just didn't know it yet. Around 11, I called my sister Kelly. She'd never been particularly fond of my fiancé, though she'd kept her opinions mostly to herself. "This is late for you," she said instead of hello. "Everything okay?" Define okay. Oh no. What did she do now? I told her the whole story. Kelly listened, and I could practically hear her rolling her eyes through the phone. "Are you kidding me? She's texting you updates from her date with her ex. Former relationship. She's very clear about that, right? And I'm sure Eric sees it the same way." Kelly paused. "So what's your plan? Pack her stuff? Give her 30 days to find a new place. Move on with my life. Good. About time you grew a spine about her behavior. I've always had a spine. You've had patience. There's a difference. Remember last Christmas when she threw that fit about spending time with our family instead of her friend's party? I remembered. And the time she'd insisted on redecorating my apartment without asking. And how she'd started making major decisions about our wedding without including me in the discussions. I should have seen this coming, I said. Probably, but better late than never. You want me to come over and help you pack her stuff? I've got it handled. Thanks though. Call me tomorrow. I want to know how this plays out. After hanging up with Kelly, I sat there thinking about all the little red flags I'd ignored. The way she'd gradually taken over my space. How she'd started making unilateral decisions about our future. The subtle disrespect that had grown bolder over time. Tonight wasn't the beginning of a problem. It was just the moment I decided to stop ignoring it. My phone rang. Tyler calling back. "Hey, I was thinking about what you told me. You sure you want to do this tonight? Maybe sleep on it." I've been sleeping on it for months without realizing it. Fair enough. Listen, my couch is yours as long as you need it. But have you thought about what you're going to say to her when she gets home? I'm going to tell her the truth, which is that respect isn't negotiable, that I'm not going to marry someone who thinks it's appropriate to go on dates with her ex and text me about how much fun she's having. You're really calling it a date? What would you call it? 2 people who used to sleep together, getting dressed up, going out for drinks, and laughing about old times. If it walks like a duck. Tyler laughed. When you put it that way. The crazy part is she actually thought I'd be fine with it. Like she's trained me so well that I'd just sit here and wait for her to come home from her evening with another man. Maybe that's exactly what she thought. The thought stung because it was probably accurate. Somewhere along the way, I'd become the kind of guy who'd accept this. The kind of guy who'd make excuses for behavior that should be unacceptable. Well, not anymore. I walked around the apartment one more time, making sure I had everything I needed. The lease was in my name. The utilities were in my name. She'd moved into my life, my space, my routine. And now she could move right back out. At 11:47, my phone buzzed with another text. "Heading home now. Thanks for being so cool about tonight. Love you." I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. She'd be home in 20 minutes, expecting to find me watching TV or reading in bed. Instead, she'd find me sitting in the living room with packed bags and a box of her belongings. I turned off most of the lights and sat down to wait. The conversation we were about to have would determine whether she was the person I thought I was marrying or whether I'd been fooling myself for the past 2 years. Either way, I'd have my answer tonight. I heard her car pull into the parking lot at exactly midnight. The engine shut off, followed by the familiar sound of her heels clicking against the pavement. She was taking her time walking up to the building, probably checking her phone or touching up her makeup. I stayed seated on the couch, my bags by the door, her box of belongings on the coffee table. The engagement ring sat in its original box next to the lamp. Everything was organized, deliberate. This wasn't going to be an emotional outburst or a dramatic scene. This was going to be a business transaction. The key turned in the lock, and she stepped inside, humming softly to herself. She was in a good mood. Great, actually. Better than I'd seen her in weeks. "Hey, babe," she called out, kicking off her heels by the door. "You still up?" "In here." She walked into the living room, still glowing from her evening out. Her hair was slightly messed up, her lipstick was gone, and there was a happiness in her eyes that I hadn't put there. That's when she noticed the bags, the box, the ring case. Her smile faded slowly, like someone adjusting the dimmer switch. "What's all this?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light. "Have a seat." "Why? What's going on?" She remained standing, her eyes moving between the packed bags and my face. "Did something happen? Did someone die?" "Yeah," I said. "Our relationship." She let out a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about? I was gone for like 4 hours. What could have possibly happened?" "Nothing happened. That's the point." I gestured toward the chair across from me. She finally sat down, but perched on the edge like she might need to run. "I don't understand. We were fine this morning. You said you understood about me meeting Eric. You were completely cool with it." "I was. I understood perfectly. Then what's the problem?" I leaned back and studied her face. She genuinely didn't get it. After 2 years together, after planning a wedding, after building what I thought was a partnership, she honestly couldn't see what was wrong with tonight. "The problem is that my fiancé just spent 4 hours on a date with her ex-boyfriend and thought that was appropriate behavior. It wasn't a date. How many times do I have to tell you that? We're friends. We have history, but we're just friends now. Friends who get dressed up in their favorite outfits, go out for drinks, and text about how good the other person looks." Her face flushed. "You're taking those texts the wrong way." "What's the right way to take them?" "I was just being friendly. I was excited to see an old friend, and I wanted to share that with you. I thought you'd appreciate that I was being open and honest about everything." I almost laughed at that logic. "You thought I'd appreciate live updates about how attractive your ex is and how much fun you're having without me." When you put it that way, it sounds bad. It sounds exactly like what it was. She stood up and started pacing, her hands moving as she talked. This was her tell when she was getting flustered. "Look, maybe I could have handled it better. Maybe I should have been more sensitive about the texting. But you're completely overreacting here. Breaking up over something this small is insane." "Small?" "Yes, small. I had drinks with someone I used to date. We talked, we laughed, we caught up on each other's lives. That's it. Nothing happened. Nothing was ever going to happen. That's not the point." "Then what is the point? Please, explain it to me, because I'm completely lost here." I stood up too, tired of looking up at her while she paced. "The point is respect. The point is boundaries. The point is that you made a decision that affected our relationship without considering how I might feel about it. But you said you were fine with it. Because I wanted to see what you would do. I wanted to see if you'd recognize that going out alone with your ex, getting dressed up for him, and enjoying yourself enough to text me about how great he looks was inappropriate for someone who's supposed to be marrying me in 6 months." She stopped pacing. "So this was some kind of test?" "No, this was you showing me who you are when you think I'll just accept anything. That's not fair. What's not fair is being engaged to someone who thinks it's okay to prioritize her ex-boyfriend's feelings over her fiancé's. I never said I was prioritizing his feelings. You said it would be weird if I came along. Weird for who? Him? Why are you worried about making your ex-boyfriend comfortable?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. For the first time tonight, she seemed to be thinking about her words before speaking. "It would have been awkward," she said finally. "For him. For everyone. But mostly for him. Because deep down, you knew this wasn't just two friends catching up. You knew there was something inappropriate about it, or you wouldn't have cared about making it awkward." She sat back down, her energy deflated. "So what now? You're really going to throw away 2 years because I had dinner with an old friend? Drinks. You said drinks every time except when you were talking to me. Interesting how that keeps changing. Oh my God, you're keeping track of every word I say now. I'm paying attention to details that matter. Like how you've been planning this outfit since yesterday. Like how you've been more excited about tonight than you've been about anything with me in months. Like how you never once asked if I was okay with it. You just told me I wasn't invited." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the box of her belongings on the coffee table. I didn't think it would be such a big deal, she said softly. That's the problem. You didn't think about how it would affect me at all. You just assumed I'd be fine with whatever you decided to do. So what happens now? I picked up the ring box and held it out to her. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be. And I've decided what kind of marriage I'm willing to have. She stared at the box like it might bite her. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Over one night out with an old friend. Over a pattern of behavior that tonight made crystal clear. She took the box with shaking hands. Where am I supposed to go? That's something you'll need to figure out. Your name's not on the lease, so legally I need to give you 30 days notice. I'm giving you that now. 30 days. I'll be staying at Tyler's for a few days to give you space to make arrangements. But yes, 30 days. She looked around the apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. Or maybe for the last time. I can't believe you're doing this to us, she whispered. I'm not doing this to us. This was done the moment you decided that going out with Eric was more important than respecting our relationship. I picked up my bags and walked toward the door. I'll be back Sunday afternoon to get more of my things. Try to have a plan by then. Wait. She stood up, still holding the ring box. Can we at least talk about this when you're not so angry? I'm not angry. That's what you don't understand. I'm disappointed, and that's worse. I opened the door and looked back at her one more time. She was standing in the middle of what used to be our living room, holding what used to be her engagement ring, surrounded by what used to be our future. For what it's worth, I said, I hope you and Eric are very happy together. Then I closed the door and walked away from the biggest mistake I'd almost made in my life. Tyler's couch turned out to be more comfortable than I expected. I slept better that first night than I had in weeks. No tossing and turning, no lying awake wondering if I was making the right choice. Just solid, uninterrupted sleep. I woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. Tyler was in the kitchen, already dressed for work. Morning, sunshine. How'd you sleep? Better than I have in months. That's either a good sign or a really bad sign. He handed me a mug of coffee. Any regrets yet? I thought about it for a moment. None. Damn, you're really done, aren't you? Completely. My phone had been buzzing all night. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, and 43 text messages. I hadn't looked at any of them. She's been trying to reach you, Tyler observed, nodding at my phone. I figured, you going to respond? Eventually, when I'm ready to hear what she has to say. Tyler studied my face while he ate his breakfast. You know what's weird? You seem lighter, like someone took a weight off your shoulders. He wasn't wrong. I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time in months, like I'd been holding my breath without realizing it. At work, I threw myself into a project that had been sitting on the back burner for weeks. My coworker Fiona noticed the change immediately. You seem different today, she said during our lunch break. More focused, just working through some personal stuff. Good personal stuff or bad personal stuff. Necessary personal stuff. Fiona had met my fiancé a few times at office parties. She'd always been polite, but never particularly warm toward her. Now I wondered what she'd picked up that I'd missed. If you need someone to talk to, I'm a good listener, she offered. Thanks. I might take you up on that. Around 3 in the afternoon, I finally listened to the voicemails. They started apologetic and quickly escalated to angry, then circled back to desperate. A greatest hits collection of emotional manipulation. I can't believe you're being so dramatic about this. You're throwing away everything we built over nothing. I talked to my mom, and she thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. Eric texted me asking if we're okay because you seemed upset last night. That last one made me laugh out loud. Eric was already checking in. How thoughtful of him. The text messages followed a similar pattern. Apologies mixed with accusations mixed with attempts to minimize what had happened. But one stood out from the rest, sent at 3:17 a.m. I called Eric to tell him what happened, and he said he thought we were broken up based on how I was acting tonight. He said I was flirting with him all evening, and he was confused about why I was there if I was engaged. Maybe you were right about some things. I read that message 3 times. So Eric had noticed what I'd noticed. He'd picked up on what she was putting down, and she'd been too busy enjoying the attention to realize it. I forwarded the message to Tyler with a note. Even her ex knew it was a date. He responded immediately. Holy crap. She just admitted she was flirting with him all night. That's brutal. By Friday afternoon, I was ready to go back to the apartment and get more of my things. Tyler offered to come with me, but I wanted to handle it myself. The apartment felt different when I walked in. Smaller somehow. She'd clearly been crying. There were tissues everywhere, and the place had that stuffy, closed-up feeling of someone who hadn't left in days. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I came in, still in pajamas at 3 in the afternoon. Her eyes were red and puffy. Her hair was a mess, and she looked like she hadn't slept since I left. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi. I've been thinking about everything you said." I nodded and headed toward the bedroom to get more clothes. "Can we talk?" she called after me. "We can talk while I pack." She followed me into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed while I pulled clothes from the closet. "I think I understand now why you were so upset." "Good." Eric said some things that made me realize how it must have looked from your perspective. I kept packing. What did Eric say? He said he thought we were broken up. He said I was acting like I was single, and he was confused about why I was there if I was getting married in a few months. Smart guy. He also said, she paused, like she was working up courage. He said I was sending mixed signals all night, that I seemed like I wanted something to happen between us. I stopped folding shirts and looked at her. Did you? I don't know. The honesty caught me off guard. I'd expected denials, explanations, more attempts to minimize what had happened. I hadn't expected her to admit that she might have wanted something to happen with Eric. At least you're being honest now. I keep thinking about that night, trying to remember exactly what I said and how I acted. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe I wasn't just catching up with an old friend. She was crying again, but quietly this time. Not the dramatic sobbing from the voicemails, just tears running down her face while she talked. I think maybe I was testing something, seeing if the feelings were still there. Seeing if I still had that effect on him. And I think I liked the attention. I liked feeling wanted by someone new. Someone who wasn't used to me yet. I sat down on the other side of the bed, far enough away that we weren't touching, but close enough that we could talk without raising our voices. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth. And because I'm trying to figure out why I did something so stupid. And what have you figured out? She was quiet for a long time, wiping her eyes with a tissue. I think I've been taking you for granted. I think I got comfortable with the idea that you'd always be there no matter what I did. And I think maybe I was starting to feel trapped by that. Trapped how? Like maybe I was settling. Like maybe there were other possibilities I should explore before I got married. The words hung in the air between us. This was the conversation we should have had months ago, before we got engaged, before we started planning a wedding, before I spent $4,000 on a ring. So you used Eric to explore those possibilities. I guess I did. I didn't plan it that way. But yeah, I think that's what happened. I finished packing the clothes I'd come for and zipped up the bag. I appreciate you being honest with me. Does it change anything? I looked around the bedroom that we'd shared for the past year. The bed where we'd talked about our future. The dresser covered with photos of us looking happy together. The closet where her clothes still hung next to the empty spaces where mine used to be. It changes everything and nothing. What does that mean? It means I understand you better now. But it also means I was right to leave. She nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer, but hoped for a different one. I found a place, she said. My friend Sloan has a spare room I can rent while I look for something permanent. Good. I'll be out by next weekend. Okay. I picked up my bag and headed toward the door. For what it's worth, she said, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. And I know you're doing the right thing. I stopped in the doorway and looked back at her. I know you are too. It was the first time either of us had acknowledged that maybe we weren't right for each other after all. That maybe this whole thing had been a mistake we were both too stubborn or too scared to admit. Will you be okay? She asked. Yeah, I will. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I was completely sure that was true. 3 months later, I was standing in my apartment again, looking at how different everything felt. The space was mine once more, arranged the way I wanted it, filled with only things that mattered to me. I'd gotten a new couch, painted the bedroom, and even bought some plants that I'd actually managed to keep alive. Tyler stopped by that Saturday morning with coffee and donuts, a weekly tradition we'd started since I moved back home. You're looking disgustingly well-adjusted, he said, settling into the new chair I'd bought last week. Thank you. I mean it. When this whole thing started, I thought you'd be a mess for months. Instead, you're like some kind of Zen master of breakups. I thought about that while I sipped my coffee. He wasn't wrong. The first week had been rough. Not because I missed her, but because I was second-guessing myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too quick to end things. But as the days passed, that doubt had faded completely. I think I just finally stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. What do you mean? I spent 2 years being the kind of guy who'd accept behavior that bothered me just to keep the peace. The kind of guy who'd smile and nod when his fiancée made decisions that affected both of us without asking what I thought. Tyler nodded. The kind of guy who'd sit home while his girlfriend went on dates with her ex. Exactly. And once I stopped being that guy, everything else fell into place. My phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. Lunch today? I have news. I showed Tyler the message. She's been very mysterious about this news all week. Probably wants to set you up with someone. Sisters love that stuff. An hour later, I met Kelly at our usual spot downtown. She was practically vibrating with excitement. Okay, you have to promise not to get weird about what I'm about to tell you. That's not a promising start. I ran into Brooke yesterday at the grocery store. Brooke, I hadn't heard that name in weeks. Funny how someone who dominated my thoughts for 2 years could just fade away. And she asked about you, how you're doing, if you're seeing anyone, that kind of thing. What did you tell her? The truth, that you're doing great. Better than great, actually. I waited for the rest of it. Kelly was building up to something. She told me she and Eric are together now. Officially, I considered this information while I ate my sandwich. I should probably feel something about it. Anger, vindication, hurt, something. Instead, I felt nothing. Like Kelly had told me about the weather or what she'd watched on TV last night. Good for them, I said. That's it. Good for them. What else should I say? I don't know. Maybe something about how you were right all along. About how she was clearly interested in him that night. I was right. But I didn't end things with her because of Eric specifically. I ended things because of what her behavior that night showed me about who she was as a person. Kelly studied my face like she was looking for cracks in my composure. You really don't care that she's with him now. I really don't. Wow. I thought you'd be at least a little bit smug about being proven right. I laughed. Why would I be smug about dodging a bullet? After lunch, I walked around downtown for a while, thinking about the past few months. I'd thrown myself into work and been promoted to senior project manager. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during the relationship. I'd started going to the gym regularly, not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I actually enjoyed it. I'd even taken a weekend trip to visit my cousin in Portland, just because I felt like it. For the first time in years, my life was entirely my own. That evening, I was reading on my couch when someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was almost 9 o'clock. I looked through the peephole and saw Brooke standing in the hallway. She was holding what looked like a manila envelope. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Hi, she said. Hi. I have some things that belong to you. She held up the envelope. Mail that was forwarded to my new place, and a few other things I found while I was packing. You could have just dropped them off with the building manager. I wanted to talk to you. About what? She looked past me into the apartment. Can I come in? Just for a minute. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her enter. She looked around the living room, taking in the changes I'd made. It looks good, she said. Different, but good. Thanks. She handed me the envelope and sat down uninvited on my new couch. Kelly told you about Eric and me. She mentioned it. You're not going to ask how long we've been together? It doesn't matter. Since 2 weeks after you and I broke up. I opened the envelope and started sorting through the contents. A bank statement, a magazine subscription, a birthday card from my aunt. Are you trying to make me jealous or prove a point? I asked without looking up. I'm trying to apologize. That made me look at her. For what specifically? For everything. For that night with Eric. For lying to you and to myself about what I was doing. For wasting 2 years of your life. You didn't waste my time. I learned a lot. Like what? I set the mail aside and really looked at her. She seemed smaller somehow. Younger. Like the confidence she'd always carried had been replaced by something more uncertain. I learned what I won't accept in a relationship. I learned what respect looks like and feels like. I learned the difference between being patient and being a pushover. She nodded slowly. Eric told me what he said to you that night. About how I was acting. He was honest. I appreciated that. He said you handled the whole thing with more class than he would have. Good to know. We sat in silence for a moment. I could tell she wanted to say more, but I wasn't going to help her get there. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't gone out with him that night? She asked finally. No. Really? Not even a little. Really? Because if it hadn't been that night with Eric, it would have been some other night with some other situation. You showed me who you are. I believed you. That's a pretty harsh way to put it. It's an honest way to put it. She stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the parking lot. "I think I made a mistake," she said quietly. "Which one?" "Letting you go." I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, the same feeling I used to get when she'd say something that made me question my own judgment. But this time, instead of giving into it, I recognized it for what it was: manipulation. "You didn't let me go," I said calmly. "I left because you chose Eric over me that night, and I chose myself over both of you. But what if I made a different choice now? Then you'd be making it too late." She turned around to face me, and I could see tears in her eyes. "I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you. I don't feel anything about you. That's worse than hate. Maybe, but it's honest." She wiped her eyes and headed toward the door. "For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who appreciates what a good guy you are." "I already found someone." She stopped with her hand on the doorknob. "Who?" "Me." After she left, I deadbolted the door and went back to my book. Outside, I could hear her car start up and drive away. This time, I knew it was for good. I thought about texting Tyler or Kelly to tell them about the visit, but decided against it. Some things didn't need to be shared or analyzed or turned into stories. Some things could just be filed away as lessons learned and chapters closed. 6 months ago, I would have spent the rest of the evening replaying every word of that conversation, wondering if I'd been too harsh or if I should have given her another chance. Tonight, I just turned the page and kept reading. Because for the first time in my adult life, I was exactly where I wanted to be, completely, unapologetically alone and perfectly fine with that. The man I'd become wouldn't accept anything less than complete respect in a relationship. And until I found someone who could offer that naturally, without testing or training or compromising, I was more than happy to keep my own company. It turned out that the best relationship I'd ever had was the one I'd built with myself. And that one was definitely built to last.